a strong application, as well as give you some examples of how procurement can be used to achieve some goals around service delivery and economic opportunity. We are also here to answer your questions about LIFT and connect you to resources to help you strengthen your project plans. We want to make sure that there is enough time to answer all of your questions. So a fair chunk of our time together will be Q&A. You can also ask questions as I go along. Catherine and Keisha will be helping out in the chat. So you also don't have to sit on your questions. If things come up while I'm speaking, feel free to drop it in and we'd love to help clarify any questions that you might have about the program. Before I dive into talking about LIFT, let me share a bit about Open Contracting Partnership. I know some of you are a little less familiar with our organization, but we're an international nonprofit and we work with governments, nonprofits, journalists, and other stakeholders from around the world to implement data-driven reform projects that improve the effectiveness and fairness of government contracting. And LIFT is our program in particular that helps teams of procurement reformers and innovators use procurement reform as a way to achieve measurable impact in terms of public goods, works, and services, as well as expand economic opportunity. We know that many of you right now are struggling with the impacts of COVID-19, and some of you are also struggling with the impacts of some of the recent environmental challenges, and we want to help you recover during this challenging time. So up to 7 teams will receive 200 hours of support in terms of technical assistance through LIFT, as well as approximately $30,000 for project activities over the course of this 18-month-long program. Our question to all of you through LIFT is, how will you use open contracting to support an inclusive and effective recovery? What do we mean by open contracting? Some of you might be wondering. Well, open contracting is the set of principles and processes that support effective public service delivery and access to economic opportunity through open data and stakeholder engagement. It's really about disclosing information and making it really accessible and useful and enabling collaboration across government with nonprofits and residents, really to address challenges throughout the contracting cycle and improving service delivery. Some examples of open contracting practices and principles include moving from paper-based to digital procurement systems, identifying user needs during planning, designing really strong RFPs that are driven by results, and engaging residents throughout the procurement process. We're also interested in tracking performance and delivery throughout the contracting cycle, because it's not enough to award a contract. We really care about seeing that the services are delivered to the residents and has the impact that we're seeking. What do we mean by inclusion? Well, no surprise, unfortunately, to anyone on this call, but the pandemic has disproportionately impacted some of our most marginalized communities. And we're really interested in supporting projects that aim to support inclusion and serve the people who have been excluded and underserved from the system. So as you're putting together your application, we invite you to think about how your project will give more power to groups that have been habitually excluded. And what do we mean by effective? Well, I know that a lot of you are facing shrinking budgets, or you would just have an increased demand on your services. And it's more important than ever that you be able to make the most out of every dollar that you're spending. So as you're putting together your project, think about how it will help processes and policies or institutions work better and more strongly. So if you do answer our challenge question and are interested in working with us, what will you get out of the program? We will help you propel your ambitions. We'll work with you to take your great idea and transform it into a very strong plan for action. Then we will be with you as you implement that plan and help you pivot and adjust and really make sure that you're able to implement your plans and achieve the impact that you want to see. You will also get to learn from a great group of eager procurement professionals from Open Contracting Partnership and our partners such as Sasha. We really want to help you, and you will get around 200 hours of technical assistance and $30,000 of support to help you really achieve the vision that you have in mind. LIFT is also a cohort-based program. That means that when you join LIFT, you'll be joining a community of reformers. We know that sometimes procurement reform can feel very lonely, and through LIFT, you'll have an opportunity to join with others who are also facing some of your same challenges, as well as celebrate successes with you. Who can apply for LIFT? As I mentioned at the top of the call, we at Open Contracting Partnership work with many different actors, and all of you are applicable for LIFT. You can be from a nonprofit, but also any level of government. So you can be from a city, regional government, or national government. So if anyone from the federal government has joined this call, you too are welcome. And we are also interested in coalitions of actors. So you can be from government and nonprofits and come together to solve a goal, to solve a challenge together. And in fact, we've seen through our work with the current LIFT teams that some of our strongest teams have brought together governments and nonprofits to solve problems together. It's really been incredible, and we'd be excited to see more projects like that and more teams like that. Although, of course, you're very welcome and encouraged to apply if you just want to submit a government-based application. So the LIFT program itself is for teams that are working to improve the quality of a public goods, works, or service, or expand economic opportunity. We're interested in projects that have a clear goal and that are able to articulate how it relates to an inclusive and effective recovery. We're also looking for projects that have momentum and buy-in. Through LIFT, we'll work with you to build more buy-in, but there has to be that baseline level of support to get the project up off the ground. We'll be looking for that. The LIFT program is also for teams that are high capacity. You've got to have the skills and the time to devote to this project. I like to say that LIFT is a do with program, not a do for program. So it matters that you're able to give 100% and work with us to achieve the goals that you've set out for yourselves. So what kinds of projects will LIFT support? We are interested in any ideas that have to use open contracting to support an inclusive and effective recovery. I've listed some ideas below, but these should just be inspiration. We're also open to other things as well. You could be aiming to expand economic opportunity. For example, boosting opportunities for women and minority-owned or local businesses to participate in public procurement. You might be aiming to improve public service delivery and infrastructure, such as making sure that public schools have the supplies and infrastructure they need to serve students. You could also be aiming to increase government effectiveness and accountability by improving integrity and fair delivery for underrepresented groups through monitoring and advocacy. And there's many other ideas in here as well. I will be sharing this presentation with all of you afterwards, so don't feel like you have to read very quickly. So for some additional inspiration, here are the projects that we're currently working with through LIFT. We are working with Mexico City to build a better bike share program. They have a great bike share system, but they're looking to revamp it and expand it. And so that way even more people are able to access this affordable and environmentally friendly form of transportation. We're also working with the cities of Buenos Aires and New Orleans, which are both looking to expand access to economic opportunity for local small businesses. And in New Orleans, that's minority-owned businesses in particular. Then we are also working with Moldova and Ecuador, and these are both partnerships between governments and nonprofits. In Moldova, they're working to improve access to medicines for HIV and tuberculosis. And then in Ecuador, they're aiming to create a more open and transparent and responsive procurement ecosystem overall, with an initial focus on emergency procurement and looking at medical procurement up ahead. I'm very glad to talk about any of these projects in particular. If folks have questions now or offline, there's been some amazing work happening, and you can also check out our website for more information. So how does LIFT work? Well, in the first phase of work with us, we help you take your strong idea and transform it into a great plan for action. We kick off with a week-long workshop, And then you take, during which you develop your plan, and then you take that plan back to your larger team or organization to refine the plan and develop some strong strategies and plan for monitoring impact. Then after that first 3 months are over, we pivot to implementation. We kick that off again with it coming back again with another workshop to further refine the plans together, and then just dive in. And during that time, you'll receive hands-on custom support from us as you implement your project. One thing that's special about Lyft is that we really tailor our support to your needs. So we don't take a cookie cutter approach. We feel that planning, of course, is essential for any project, right? So it makes sense that we spend so much time together doing that work, but the technical assistance itself is very tailored to your individual needs. So will you benefit from Lyft even if you do not participate? Absolutely. We do aim to share the lessons learned and approaches from Lyft with our larger community. I would also note that Lyft is just one way we support the community. So if you're listening to this presentation and you feel like you'd like to work with us, but Lyft might not be the right thing for you, please do reach out if you haven't already. We'd be glad to connect and discuss how we can support you. What can Lyft help you achieve? Well, we do have this overarching goal of helping you achieve measurable impact by the end of the program. There's a lot of pieces along the way that we'll help you out with. That can be things from building political buy-in to get that robust support that you need to make change. It can be improving the use of open data and open data systems so that way you're able to manage and monitor and really understand what's going on and how your project is making an impact. And data is one of the great strengths of open contracting partnership. We will also help you with different strategies as far as policies and processes goes to establish new ways of working with public contracts to make sure that the work that you're doing leads to the results that you want to have. We're also very committed to helping you make sure that your reform plan has inclusivity built into it. And it's part of the DNA, not just an output or outcome of your project, but really an essential core component that is integrated into your reform plan. And of course, we are also here to help you work better as a team. We ask in Lyft that you work together across departments or across organizations, and that can be hard and might be unfamiliar to you. And we'll help create the framework for you to help work together with your team in a positive way. How do we provide support? We do those great workshops together at the beginning of the program, and then at that 3-month mark when we pivot to implementation. We've heard from our current Lyft teams that those are incredibly valuable times to just sit together and plan that, and we're excited to be able to help facilitate this work for you. We also provide regular support through meetings every 2 weeks with an OCP project manager, and this person will help provide technical assistance, co-work with you on your project, as well as connect you to additional support either in the organization or beyond. Finally, we facilitate cohort activities. We've gotten great response to the case study calls. It can be very inspiring to learn from each other, as well as the interesting things happening all around the world in terms of procurement. So this is a great time for you to learn together with others about what's working well and answer questions from some of the leaders in the field. So what might this really look like? I've been talking a lot in the broad sense, but here's a more detailed picture of what working with us through Lyft might look like. Let's say your goal is to increase the number of bids awarded to small business owners. Well, we would start with that workshop during which we would help you create a really strong strategy and refine your project plans and connect you to others. Then during for those first 3 months, you would go back and we would support you as you carry out different activities, which of course will be dependent upon your context. But in this case, it might be things like Further refining your strategic implementation and impact monitoring plan and building buy-in with other departments. Could be engaging high political officials or nonprofit leaders and other people who you need on your side to commit to the work that you're doing. It might also be deepening your understanding of the challenge through user research or conducting data analysis to set those baselines. Regardless of your activities during that time, I think that these outcomes would resonate across different projects. And that would be your project plan would be strong and it would have buy-in from the people that you need and the resources that you need to be successful. Your core team would have established a good working relationship and meet regularly to solve problems together. The key stakeholders that you need to have involved would be aware of and excited about your project. And project activities, perhaps including data mapping, would be underway. Then in the next 15 months during implementation, we would come together, as mentioned, during another planning workshop to refine your plan based on what you've learned during the past 3 months, and then dive into implementation. So for a project like increasing the number of bids and work to small business owners, activities could be things like changing policies and procedures to address late payment. It could be designing and implementing a communications plan and capacity building program, so that way SMEs are better able to navigate the procurement process. It could also include conducting regular data analysis to monitor and learn during the project implementation. Finally, as an outcome of the project and your work with us, you would have achieved measurable impact. So in this case, it would be measurable increase in the number of contracts or the amount of contracts awarded to local SMEs. We also would hope that after this time with us that you would have deepened capacity and be able to pursue more projects like this on your own. So as far as the commitment goes, initially it's pretty light. We know that you do not have a lot of time on your hands, especially nowadays. So the initial application is really short. It's just 10 questions. Even for the perfectionists among you, it should take no more than 3 hours to do, much less if you are a bit more speedy. If you are selected to move forward, we would ask that you complete an additional questionnaire to give us some more information about your project, who's on your team, and your needs. And then we would invite a small group in for just one round of interviews and a short exercise. During the program itself, we would expect that you would proactively work to achieve the milestones that you've laid out for yourself. You would attend those workshops and regular check-in calls with us. It's, as mentioned, this is a do with, not a do for program, so we need that engagement, and the more that you do, the more that we can help you. And we would also expect that you would use a monitoring, learning, and evaluation plan to make sure that you're checking in with yourselves to find out if you're on track and pivot as needed. So how are we selecting? Well, the big information here is that short 10-question application is due March 12th. So don't forget, that's about 2 weeks out from now, so you still have some time. We will select the top applicants to do an additional application with just a few more questions, and then we'll bring in an outside advisory committee to help us make the choice of who is invited for interviews. Then the selected teams will be announced in June. As we're looking at applications, we will be paying attention to the impact of the project as well as your plan. We'll be looking at if you have the power to make change, as well as the capacity of your team to deliver on your challenges. Here's an overview of the key dates. Again, March 12th, big day. Please submit your application by then. We'd love to see what ideas you have, and we're very excited to get new plans and new ideas about how we can work together. We still do have, 2 weeks is a fair chunk of time, and we are here to support you. So here are some tools and ideas for getting some additional help. Next week on Tuesday, we have another webinar, and we'll go in much greater depth about how to create a strong application and give you some ideas about framing and creating strong problem and solution statements. Should be great. You're invited. I know that you can't click on any of these links right now, but Catherine or Keisha, if you could drop them in there, that would be great. And I'll share this, this presentation with all of you after the call. We also have office hours. So if you'd like to just get on the phone, talk with me and talk with Sasha about your project idea and if it's right for Lyft or different ways to frame your project, we are all ears and in fact would love to talk with you. So please do reach out if you would love some one-on-one time with us. We're here to support you. So please take advantage of that opportunity. Finally, we have a lot of materials and resources on our website. Please poke around there. I will send oodles of links to all of you after this call as well. My email is right there. You can also find it online as well. So do reach out if you have any questions that after this call. So with that, as promised, I left plenty of time for Q&A. So do you guys have any questions? I have not been monitoring the chat, so I'm not sure if there has been much going on there, but it's open to all of you.
Thank you, Kay. There were no questions in the chat yet, so definitely please feel free to ask or share in the chat if you have any questions.
And if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself, just drop your question in your chat and we can read it ourselves and answer it on this call. We would also love to hear about any project ideas that you might have. So if you'd like to share with us maybe what you're thinking of, we can think with you about that and would love to hear what's on your mind in terms of what you think might be the right project for Lyft. All right, we do have a question from Amy. I think I'm saying your name right, Ami. We are selecting 7 teams for this opportunity. So it is a global program as mentioned, and we're gonna aim for regional diversity as well. So I would anticipate that we'll have at least 1 team from the US, if not 2 or more. And we'll also, I think I would encourage you to apply even if you're, regardless, because we at OCP are just interested in working with our partners. So even if your project might not be the thing for Lyft, this would be a helpful way to get the conversation going as well. So don't be shy. Other questions? All right, yes, there will be more. So there will be more opportunities in the future. For Lyft itself, that's a great question. I think that I would anticipate having like it's an 18-month long program. And so I'm feeling like either like in a year or in a year and a half, we might open up another call for applications as well. So we definitely will continue the program. We've seen really strong results, in part, I think, because the support we provide is so custom. So we are certainly going to continue it because we've had our partners have gotten so much out of it that we want to keep going. And if it will remain focused on open contracting or other target areas, we're really interested in, well, the organization is really interested in using procurement as a tool to improve outcomes for service delivery and economic opportunity. So our focus will always be on procurement reform in particular, or in general. So if open contracting trips you up and that phrase is confusing, happy to talk with you about that. Please don't be too scared. It's really about using procurement as a tool for achieving larger aims, either through opening up information or engaging more with the community or other stakeholders on procurement as an issue. So don't don't be too worried about that. And I'm also happy to talk with you on the call if it makes sense. Great. Sounds like we should chat more, Amy. Yes, we are. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot that we can do to help support you or others. And yay, chatting. So I know that there is also other people on the call. I'm happy to talk with you too, even if you're feeling a little shy right now. Just reach out.
This is Dinah Shell from New York. I'm not feeling shy. I'm feeling like I have a lot to process to have decent questions for you. So I'm going to mine all the materials you've shared, and thank you for this. I'm not sure if I missed. I know some of the projects that you feature on the website, I think are current projects, but can you talk a little bit about like the history of this, and if there are any projects that have gone the full cycle, and any outcomes like successes, impact successes that you can point to? I'm curious about what looks like a strong success from the perspective of your entity.
Great. Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So to start with the first part of that, LIFT grew out of our organizational learning. So we had Open Contracting Partnership more historically, I would say, focused on the open data side of things. And we were very interested in opening up information. And we see that as one of the key ingredients to using procurement reform or doing procurement reform better and achieving better results. But what we saw, I mean, of course, like now, of course, it seems like, of course, right? It's one thing to open up the data. It's another thing to get people to use it, both inside the government and outside the government, making sure that vendors are able to access it. There's all these other things that have to be in place for changes in procurement to be really successful and impactful. So LIFT is our program that is based off that organizational learning. And that's why we do, through the program, work not just on data side of things, but we also work on building buy-in and helping people develop a really strong plan, as well as changing policies and procedures. That's why we created the program and the genesis of it. The current LIFT teams are actually our inaugural cohort of LIFT teams. So no one has completed the cycle yet, but we have seen some really strong results. Catherine just posted a blog with some information about how teams have used the program to help their projects go farther. I would say we've seen really good, I mean, I'm going to try, I don't want to go like too in depth or get too lost in the details, but we've seen really great impacts in Ecuador, for example, and they're on track to reduce direct awards of contracts. In Moldova, they're buying cheaper medicines for HIV and tuberculosis, thereby increasing access because they have a national healthcare system. So I would definitely say that those are like great examples of success rate. Some of the projects, it just depends upon where they are. Like Mexico City did a great RFI process, and they've received really strong feedback from vendors, and others within the city are replicating some innovative procurement practices. And for us, we would say again, like that's a really great sign of things, even though that contract hasn't been awarded yet, but that's just because the contracting of how that major contracting cycle goes. We've also been working, like I said, with Buenos Aires and New Orleans on increasing access to opportunity. And so while we haven't yet, or not yet able to document like the measurable increases in that way, I would say that we feel good about the changes in practices and the capacity building that's been going on and setting up teams for success. A cool thing that Buenos Aires did, for example, is they did an analysis to understand how the departments were purchasing. So they know who is buying and what they're buying from local small business owners, right? And once you have that information, you're able to create really targeted strategies to increase opportunities for those that might be falling behind. I could keep going forever on it. It's like, clearly this is my day job and I'm excited about it. But does that answer your questions, or do you have any follow-ups?
It does, and the blog too. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and Catherine's giving some quality in-depth details as well there. So do check out the chat. questions from others on the call? And/or project ideas? Here to hear them. While you're thinking of your great and wonderful questions, Sasha or Catherine, is there anything you want to add either in response to those questions or thoughts generally or things that I may have missed as I was going through? Silence. All right.
So if
Please.
you like, oh yeah, no. So if you like, maybe a little bit of an anecdote. Since you mentioned the Mexico City bike share project, and I was involved in helping provide some advice to the team, and maybe just to describe what I think, and one of the things that I'm so excited about in this program is that OCP, the LIFT program, really approaches this as making options available. So a lot of time we spent was discussing, here are possible ways you can solve the problem, and or how you could get more citizens involved in, for example, not only did we do the first RFI for Mexico City, but we actually published the whole terms of reference, the RFP, for public consultation before it actually went to market. And so as we did that, we explored all the different options in which citizens could get involved in designing the problem, in having vendor engagement early on in the process, in having citizen engagement, in overlooking what is going out to market, and then also looking forward as to whether there are opportunities for citizens to engage in contract management and so forth. So it was really, I think, the nice way of working here was that we put options on the table. We helped package them if they were going up to decision makers, for example, ministers or politicians, but we didn't actually push any of those options onto the team. So it was really kind of just like a really, really beautifully laid out buffet, I would say, that we made available, and that enriched the process, I think, in a really good way for the city folks who were kind of juggling all the different constraints they had.
Thank you, Sasha. Other questions from the group? Paula, thoughts from you? You're unmuted, so I'm not sure if that was an accident or if you'd like to share a question with us. All right. Let's see. So there's another question in the chat. Yes. All right. Keep the questions coming in. We're here to answer them. And if you are interested in information about how to create a strong application, or if you want to chat more with Sasha or I, definitely do reach out. And yes, great. Yes, not all the teams will be from the same region. That is correct. Yeah, and it's been interesting. I would say because our current cohort of LIFT teams is from all around the world, it has been interesting to see some of that cross-learning happen across regions and across contexts. You might be surprised at how a lot of the challenges that we face in procurement are universal. So that's been an interesting thing for everyone to come together and learn from each other, and it is a pretty special opportunity, I would say, and very neat. We're going to do our best to make those opportunities available for this next cohort as well. All right. So I feel like the questions have wound down. I think that I will not keep you here any longer unless you have a last chance. Then you can reach out to me after the call. Please do. I would love to hear from you, and I will share out the presentation as well as those resources that I mentioned. So don't forget, March 12th, 10 questions, easy peasy. And please reach out if you have any questions or like to chat. All right. Thank you all. I look forward to being in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.